Matt Valley. Welcome to the Rock and Roll Research Podcast, where we share the super cool backstories and side gigs of the research and insights pros that you trust. Now, there are a lot of great insights and research companies out there, but it's no secret that many of them struggle to get meetings to tell their story to the right types of clients. They just struggle with that front end part, the sales bit. So that's where today's guest comes in. Brian Zimmerman is a true expert when it comes to business development, working with market research companies and others. Get that first meeting that will hopefully turn into long-term productive relationships. And while he's one heck of a business developer, Brian is also one heck of a screaming guitar player. You might have guessed that. Looking at that background, is that just gorgeous or what? That looks like a stinky, awesome rehearsal space where lots of great music gets played. So where's that? What's that, Brian?
How to set the theme for the show.
Yeah, awesome. Well, it's perfect, and I look forward to talking about that and a whole lot more in today's podcast. So welcome to the show, Brian.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, super excited to have you. While I really want to get into the music stuff because you just got me sucked in with that background. So for those who are listening on audio, I can see cymbals, I can see drums, I can see guitars, amps, posters all over the walls, all kinds of good stuff. So that's the way it should be. But we're going to start with research. So Brian, you're in business development, and somewhere along the line you encountered research. And you stuck around there. So tell us how you got into research and a bit about what you're doing now.
Yeah, I mean, so back in 2014, I was looking for a new position and came across a research company, went on their website, checked them out. And they weren't hiring at the time, but I saw in there stuff like holistic communications and applied neuroscience and
oh, cool.
The subconscious mind and consumer insights. So that was intriguing to me. That kind of it was an area in a space that I never worked in before.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured I mail a resume out to the CEO and see what happens. And lo and behold, we started having a series of conversations. And obviously he saw the value that I can bring to the table, and he hired me.
Cool. And that's not just like your garden variety market research. You're jumping into neuroscience and all that good stuff, huh?
Yeah, I mean, between eye tracking and biometrics and sensory and qualitative and quantitative, the whole 9 yards, packaging, design, branding, I mean, you name it, that's what they did.
Yeah, cool. What was the company, if you don't mind me asking?
HCD Research.
HCD. Oh, yeah, good company. Cool. And so that was back in 2014. And you stayed there for a few years. And tell us a little bit about your journey since then.
Yeah, a couple of consulting projects that I've been working on, both in market research, music, and also some marketing and advertising stuff. Right now, I'm actually looking for my last big gig, my last big position. So that's on the books right now.
Yeah, cool. So let me ask you this, because a lot of people, and myself included, find some of the unique things that have to do with the insights industry. I feel like we're sort of one of a kind. And you've developed business for a number of different industries. Is that really true, or is insights just another one of many industries out there?
I mean, there's many different industries. I mean, when it comes down to selling, it's obviously making sure obviously you're talking to the right person, and trying to not everybody is going to need your product or service. That's the main thing. So that's where the real salesman comes in, is to kind of scoot away and into that sort of area to sell.
Yeah, cool. So tell me a litto bit about that, because I know that the book on the insights industry is that we tend to veer towards the introverted, and maybe we eschew salespeople, and we don't want to be sold to, that kind of thing. So in this space, what really works? How do you cut through? I think that can help some of the people who listen to the show who reluctantly do those jobs, and also some of the client side people who get these contacts out of the blue. So what tends to cut through the noise?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, you have to remove yourself from the rep zone.
Remove yourself
You
from the
stop
rep zone.
which means you stop pitching.
Right. Yeah.
Um, all the average reps, pitch, and prospects today are bombarded with sales pitches, endless, meaningless sales pitches.
Myself
And
included.
yeah, we get them all the time. And so you remove yourself from the rep zone, you stop pitching, you turn off your sales voice
Hmm.
so the prospects don't smell your commission breath. And then what it boils down to then is to have basically a human to human conversation instead of a rep client conversation.
Right.
And then once that happens, the prospect's guards are down and they are out of the zone of resistance.
Okay.
So now you have the doors is wider open for you because they know that you're not trying to sell them something or ram a sales pitch down the throat. Really, what it comes down to too is becoming known, like, and trusted,
Known, liked, and
right?
trusted. Yep.
And that means that sales people have gotten a bad rap throughout the years, right?
Indeed.
Uh, and you get a call. What is the first thing? Not interested. Click, right?
Yeah.
And by doing what I just said, removing yourself again, you're now becoming a red X, meaning that you're standing out in a sea of sameness, right?
Yeah.
And all the white circle messages, which I've trained recently with probably one of the two best sales coaches on LinkedIn is Josh Braun and Brian Burns, who, before I met them, I thought I knew everything about sales until they taught me about the new world of selling.
Right.
So that's really where the sales comes in, is really just focusing on not being that salesy person, pesky, annoying salesman.
Right.
Just having that, like we're having now, it's just a normal conversation.
Yeah. Now, one other question about this, because I think it's always fascinating, and everyone is in a position to sell and be sold to, right?
Yeah,
But no one really utilizes any technique. And I know a lot of people say, "Oh, salesmanship is natural, right? So either you're a natural salesman or you're not." So there are two schools of thought: can you learn it, or is it innate? And I'm guessing you would fall on the latter by virtue of the fact that you're kind of studied and you've got a philosophy on this. Is that fair to say?
well, you have to want to learn it,
Yeah.
right? As with anything, I know sales reps, colleagues of mine that never picked up a sales book, never read a sales book,
Yeah.
or don't have any sort of on LinkedIn, they don't have any, they're not, no, there's no sales groups they're watching or connected to or joined, or it just mind boggles me that, that's our craft. Sales is our craft, right?
Right. Yeah.
And for me, it's always about keeping abreast, keeping myself always constantly learning about what's happening in sales. What's the latest? How can I be ahead of the game? How can I up my game while the other reps are still pitching, right?
Sure. Cool. I love it. All right. So we've got to talk guitar. So I see that rehearsal space, man, and I just want to be there. I want to sit
Yeah.
down and jam with you, man. So tell me a bit about, how you got interested in guitar and what you're doing now.
Yeah. I mean, I remember even in first grade going up to the teacher and asking her how to spell music, right? There was always music playing at home growing up on my
Right.
parents' side and on my grandparents' side. My mother was a big Beatles fan. She had all the albums. She went to see them at Shea Stadium. So I was listening to her records growing up. And my father, he was playing stuff like The Who and Zeppelin and
Yeah.
Black Sabbath and Foreigner records.
Nice.
But the real game changer, the real life changing event for me was when my grandfather put one of his guitars in my hand to play when I was 3 years old.
Okay.
And since then it's been my voice ever since. I took my first guitar lesson in second grade.
Yeah.
Wrote my first song about when I was about 14. For my first band at 16, and I also worked in radio a little bit too later on.
Oh, you
So
did?
music was always a part of who I am. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever reach that point where you're like, oh, you know what? Now it's I'm all grown up now, so I put my guitars down, and then 20 years later you dust them back off, or has it just been continuous all the way through?
I play guitar every single day. I have a guitar by the dinner table that I pick up. If I have an idea, I'll play it. Guitar by my bed. Uh, because as a songwriter too, I wrote my first song when I said, what, about 14. You're always having these creative ideas, so you want to have your instrument right there, ready to go when you have something. So
Yeah.
I'm always playing, whether I'm playing down here. This is actually the room where my band, the Zims, rehearses, and this is where pretty much the magic happens. So
Yeah.
I'm always, like I said, I'm always music's always been a part of my life.
So let's hear about your current band. What's the deal?
The band is called the Zims, and I think we're mostly original band.
Okay.
I write most of the songs. We kind of are described as an AC/DC meets Zeppelin or the Who.
Oh, okay. Okay. Some old school rockish metal kind of stuff.
Yeah, so we play a mixture of hard rock, soft rock, blues rock. We kind of hoping to get into the studio one of these days to cut an album. So there's a lot of things going on. So writing new material as we speak. So yeah, it keeps me going.
Yeah, cool. So you've been playing since you were 3. So music has always been a part of your life. I'm curious to know if you have borrowed any of the lessons that you've learned from music and applied them to your professional career, or maybe vice versa. Anything you can share there?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously, I think detaching from the outcome and being aware of what you can and cannot control. And that means that, again, like I said in the beginning, not everybody you are selling to is the right fit for you or wants or
Right.
needs your product or service.
Right.
Not everybody's going to like your music or your band. So detaching from that, always wanting to have an agenda or an expectation,
Yeah.
right? And that's something that I learned from my sales coaches, Josh Braun and Brian Burns, is to be able to just go with that flow. And it's okay if nobody likes you or nobody sees your value, because you want to focus on the people that do, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when somebody does come up to you and say, dude, man, your band sucks. It's still rough, man.
Right. Right. Well, we're human. We're human. We have that. And also too, is to obviously be creative. Uh, you have to practice. You never stop learning, and being persistent always pays off in the end.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, true, true.
yeah, I'm always the one that, I feel like there's something there, and I feel that sometimes people don't like the first song or the second song or your first sales email or cold call, but maybe the third one is going to hit and resonate and spark some curiosity.
Yeah,
And that's the thing, is about being that persistence.
yeah, yeah. Just a just a brief anecdote that came to mind. My son Nelson, who's now 14, I remember a few years ago. So I many years ago when I was in high school put out a thrash metal album with my brother.
Yeah.
Um, And so my son Nelson, when he became aware of it, maybe around age 10 or 11, he says, Dad, I can appreciate what you and Uncle Mike did. I can appreciate that you played in a band, but I don't like your music. And you know what? Actually, to your point, I was happy about it because he's definitely not my audience.
Right. At least he was honest, right? At least he was honest.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So he just laid it out there. I'll take it. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So it's kind of interesting. You started in the research space. You started with some of the most advanced stuff and those were heady days of neuroscience and all that good stuff. And I'm
Yeah.
sure you've sold a lot of the more traditional types of research as well. Curious to know, from your vantage point and those discovery calls and stuff that you've had. I'm sure there have been many. What do you see the future of research and consumer insights looking like?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm hearing a lot about being heavily influenced by advances in AI and big data analytics and virtual and augmented reality, which is pretty cool. I
Yeah,
think for me, I think which would be also be cool. I'm not even sure if this is even possible or not, but to do some sort of in-store study. So if Market Vision was going to do a study on guitar players
yeah,
at Guitar Center for Gibson or Fender or Peavey, uh, and to kind of study the shopper insights, the shopper journey,
yeah,
whether there might be to study heart rate or study eye tracking,
yeah,
what they're buying, what they're not buying, why they don't buy it. Of course, there obviously has to be some sort of incentive for participants to participate in it. But I think that would be cool to have some sort of in-store insights tracking that sort of shopper journey of guitar players. It could be anybody, but
yeah. No, I
genre,
agree.
whatever.
That would be a fascinating study. I've worked on some in-store neuroscience types of projects, but not in this category. Uh,
Right.
and I think that'd be fascinating. I also think it would be really interesting to measure the brain response of the other customers in the store when somebody starts playing Stairway to Heaven.
I knew you were going to say that.
It's like,
Right.
that's it. I'm out of here. Enough of
Right.
that.
Right.
No,
Uh,
I would love that. Hey, if anybody's listening to this and wants to engage in a study like that, get
right.
in touch with Brian.
Yeah.
That sounds like a
Call me.
really
Call
cool
me.
one to me.
Yeah.
Awesome, super cool. All right, so this is media, right? Podcast. It's just one piece of potential media that somebody could consume. Curious to know in your life, and this is big broad question. It can be
Yeah.
inspiration, insight, or enjoyment. What media are you consuming these days?
Yeah. I mean, so I'm always on LinkedIn. Obviously, keeping up with my feed, keeping up with companies that I'm looking after. And again, I'm always keeping up with the content of the sales coaches, Josh Braun, Brian Burns. They're always posting videos. They're always posting content. Again, keeping my
Sure.
brain and my skills sharpened by what they're saying out there. Um, and also, I'm always on Reverb.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah. So yeah, I mean, those are the kind of the go-to stuff: LinkedIn, Reverb, that sort of thing. Yep.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, Reverb is the preeminent site for buying and selling used uh, and new music gear. Funny enough, I
And,
got up this morning and I put a bid on a drum set on
oh
Reverb
yeah,
just this morning. What do you know?
yeah.
It
It's
was a
the
low.
musician's marketplace.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And yeah, I put in a low ball off this morning. I keep
Oh
checking
yeah.
to see keep checking to see if they countered me or not, but we'll see. Funny thing
I
about oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I don't want to tell you how many guitars I bought this year on Reverb. I don't think you believe me.
Give us a range. Come on.
In the 20s.
What's it about guitar players? And what is it about that, right? So, fair enough. I have three drum sets. I have maybe nine snare drums, so I get it to some extent. But so many guitar sets. Give me an insight into
Well,
the psychology of that.
well, to be fair, I didn't keep all of them. I sold some of them.
Yeah,
For me, I'm always buying and selling.
yeah,
The guitar you buy today that you think is the best guitar you ever bought, you don't like it the next day, so
yeah.
you're ending up selling it. Um, and I've been very picky over the years of my guitars. I'm into guitars made in Japan. I feel like those are real good quality instruments. So I'm going after like Strats in Japan, Gibsons in Japan.
Yeah.
But again, it's always that obviously if you see a bargain, you want to jump on it, right?
No,
Um,
there's something about that. It's like you can't let somebody else have it. So you're like, you know what?
right,
I have to buy this. If I don't like it, I will sell it and make a slight profit on it. But I just
right,
have to do it. I can't just
right,
let this go.
right. Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's like, why did I buy this? You think, you buy it, you see it on Reverb, it's so nice and pretty on the site, and you get it, it's like, why did I even bother, right? So there's a mixture of all that, and there's some gems that you keep. There's some ones that you are thankful you got. So, but I gotta just stop now for a bit.
Yeah, that's
Back to
what.
writing a song or something.
Okay, so I get it now. So I'm like you. I just don't do it quite as much, just a little bit less. That's all.
They call it GAS, guitar acquisition syndrome.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Uh,
I had a lot of that, obviously, this year. So
You know what? I'm so bummed. Speaking of Reverb and research, I did get an email from Reverb, must have been a year and a half ago, asking me to participate in their community.
oh
Uh,
yeah,
and I so wanted to do it. Uh, I have to think that either maybe I wasn't selling enough on Reverb, or maybe I was honest to the market research question that I work in research. I did
maybe.
actually get the follow up, so I'm not a Reverb panelist, but I sure want to be.
Yeah, I jump on it.
All
You'd be
right,
good.
so if you're working at Reverb and in research, then give me a call. I want to talk to
Yeah, call Matt.
you. Okay, all right. So this is really the all important question, Brian. We've asked it over 100 times now on the podcast. It is research, so I keep quantitative results of the mentions of this, and I'm super curious. So now I know a little bit about what type of music you play currently, but I have no idea what your answers are going to be to this question. So I'm really fascinated. So, okay, enough talking from me. You're stranded on a desert island. You've got 3 records to keep you company for the rest of your days. What are they?
3, huh?
Just 3.
Uh,
You gotta
I'll
narrow it
I'll
down.
I'll pick 3 out of the 6 that I have. Maybe we'll do a bonus scene with the others.
All right.
And I'll keep the Rob Volpe tradition going by starting with number 3.
Okay.
Uh,
Countdown.
Number 3 is the Beatles' White Album.
Beatles White Album. Yes. Classic.
Um, I back in the day, again, my mother was indulging and absorbing myself in her albums. Uh, I was one of the songs on here, "Birthday." I kept listening to over and over again. I was just fascinated by there's a baby sound in the middle of the bridge,
Yeah.
and I was just so fascinated by that. And one of my friends recently told me, "No, it's not a baby. That's one of the Beatles." So now I'm thinking, is it? I thought all along that it was actually a baby crying, but now he's got me thinking that it could be probably John or Paul.
I'm
But
sure it's discussed endlessly on the internet.
this album is just so versatile. There's so much. Obviously, it's a 2 album set. There's just so much different material on here. You just really can't go wrong with the Beatles' White Album.
Yeah, cool. I
So
appreciate the props, by the way, as well. We love props on the podcast. Okay, so Beatles White Album, that's number 3.
yeah. Number 2 is
Oh, dude.
Kiss Destroyer.
The first album I ever loved, Kiss Destroyer. God of Thunder, baby.
I I read somewhere, I was flipping through one of those Columbia House, or back in the day, the mail order CD catalogs, and I came across this album that said the album to end all Kiss albums. And
Yes.
I actually remember in grade school, somebody wrote the Kiss logo on the bathroom stall.
Yes.
So I remembered that, and I said, I have to get it.
Yeah.
And this was back in the 80s, I think. And there was also, I think, my neighbor had MTV on, and I saw them on MTV. So all those different,
Yeah.
it just kind of I just had to get it. And the first one is the Who's Next,
Yeah. Yeah. Very
which
cool.
is, in my opinion, a masterpiece. My father was actually playing this record back in when I was in diapers.
Yeah.
I have pictures actually to prove it. So this was always playing, again, growing up with my father with the Who and Zeppelin and that sort of thing, and my mother with the Beatles. So this kind of just stuck with me throughout the years. And yeah, so
Yeah, so really interesting that the influence of your parents when it comes to music has really really played quite a bit into what you ultimately ended up loving. Very different from my own experience, by the way, but that's very interesting.
right. I might have some ones that you might be looking that you might have in your collection, the other three, but
Well, I tell you, I just had Kiss Destroyer. I love that choice so much. My brother and I, we wore the grooves off of that record when I was probably 7-ish,
yeah,
eight maybe, and we had that Destroyer poster on our door. We watched the Kiss cartoon. So it's funny because the first one was the Beatles, and then Kiss, and those were basically our two favorite cartoons as kids: the Beatles cartoon, Yellow Submarine, and then the Kiss cartoons. I was waiting for, I don't know what's next after that. So the Who, a real true classic. Awesome choices. I love it.
Thank you.
Cool, excellent, Brian. Hey, this has been a really super fun chat. We've got to jam sometime, man.
We do.
Next time I'm in your neck of the woods, I'm left-handed. That's the only problem. But just tell your drummer to step aside. I've got
sticks are here waiting for you.
That's right. Super cool, excellent. All right, loved the chat, Brian. Let's talk soon and stay in touch and rock and roll.
Yeah, it's been fun.